Hey y'all, it's Bear, and today I am here to talk about where I've been and what happened. I don't know how to start this. I've talked about it on my Twitter and my Instagram and on TikTok. Like I've talked about it, right? But sitting down and talking about this to a camera feels a lot harder than typing things out. Will died in May. So you probably noticed that I was not active in May on YouTube, and that was because I had decided to take a break. Will and I had talked about it, and we had decided with everything that was going on in our lives, it was best for me to take like a little bit of a break from YouTube. I was having problems at work, and I was really stressed out, and Will's health had not been the best. If you're not aware, Will had a genetic heart disease, and it wasn't odd for them to get admitted to the hospital. I think in the 4-ish years that we were together, Will had been to the hospital a lot. It wasn't odd for them to be hospitalized for their heart condition. Basically, their body could not process sodium properly, and they would retain fluid, and their heart would have to kind of work overtime in order to process fluid and sodium and everything. Their body would retain fluid, and it would cause breathing issues, cardiac issues, and like they would lose their strength. So it wasn't a weird thing for Will to be put in the hospital for like a week at a time. It happened every year that we were together, and even then before we got together, whenever Will and I just knew each other online, you know, Will would be put in the hospital pretty regularly. So I had agreed to take May off and then pick back up in June, and the first week of May, I believe it was, Will had been just going downhill very fast, and once again, this wasn't rare. We just called it like a flare-up. That's what it always was. It was always just a flare-up where they're having trouble breathing. They can't really move around that much. I had to help them do a lot of things and like help them from the bed to the couch. I reorganized our living room furniture and moved couches and stuff so that it would be easier for Will to get from the bedroom to the couch. So like I said, this wasn't unusual, and we just thought it was a standard thing. They had made a plan to go to the emergency room at 3 a.m. with one of their friends, because that was whenever their friend got off work. The friend had a car. Will and I did not have a car, and Will didn't want to Uber to the hospital. They had tried to get an appointment with their cardiologist, and they couldn't because the office was booked up until like mid-June, I think. So going to the doctor was not a thing that we could do. I get home from work. Will tells me, like, I don't think I can wait. I need to go to the doctor right now. I say, okay, so we'll call the friend, and if not, like, if I have to, like, we'll just Uber you. Like, you know, we'll just Uber you to the hospital. So I think that they got to the hospital. I stayed at home. The friend came over and took Will to the hospital because I had to work the next day. And I was like, I'll come with you. I'll call out. I'll do whatever. And Will was like, no, you need to go to work. We need the money. I'll be fine. I'll go to the hospital. So, goes to the hospital, gets there at about 1 in the morning, and I go to visit the next day to, like, bring some stuff, right? I'm like, oh, let's bring some snacks for you, let's bring clothes, let's bring this, you know, all of these things. And one thing I remember really distinctly is us sitting in the hospital talking so much shit about how bad the Met Gala was this year. And, you know, Will was in the hospital for about a week, and ironically, the cardiologist at the hospital was also Will's personal cardiologist, so she knew how to take good care of them. Will's in there for, I want to say like a week, and the last day that they're in there, I go to visit, and they say they want to install a defibrillator. They told me I could go home today, but now they want me to stay longer to install a defibrillator. And I said, how do you feel about that? And they said, well, the doctor says it's like an airbag. It's better to have it and not need it just in case something happens, just in case I have a heart attack, just in case, you know, whatever. And I'm like, okay, you should get it. Like, hands down, you should get the defibrillator installed because you're supposed to be here with me forever. And I want to keep you here as long as I can. So I think you should get the defibrillator. Will says, but they told me I could go home today, so I'm going to go home today. And I'll just get the defibrillator next time I'm here. I'm like, well, you're an adult. I can't tell you what to do with your body. I want you to get it. I am pushing for it. You should get it. But it's your medical choice. Like, you have a say in what goes on with your body. So I'm not going to push you one way or the other. You asked my opinion. Here it is. Get the defibrillator. Stay at the hospital longer. And Will says no. They told me I could come home. So I'm coming home. Every time I went, Will was in very good spirits. They had removed, I think, 25 pounds of fluid off of Will, which it's a lot, but I think the last time they went, they removed 20 pounds of fluid off of Will. So it wasn't like, you know, having a bunch of fluid retention and stuff was abnormal for their health. What did kind of freak me out, though, was this time, whenever they got to the hospital, that first day that they went in, they were in the process of heart failure. And Will had had surgeries and procedures done before where they would have to stop their heart and shock it back to get the rhythm pumping properly. I don't know what the proper term for that is. This felt like just a regular visit to the hospital. And Will gets home on, I think, the 9th. And it's fine, feeling good, taking medication and everything. We're talking about everything, and we had made a plan on Friday to go try out this new ice cream shop across the street. We had made a plan for a date day. And we go to bed on the 12th. We ordered Burger King for dinner, which I remember thinking was weird because we never really ordered Burger King. And this sounds so stupid. I understand how stupid this sounds, but in my head, I'm like, should I have thought that ordering Burger King was a sign that something was off? And like, no, I shouldn't have, but I'm just talking things out here. I'm just telling you, I'm just getting it out because I haven't had a chance to sit down and get it out on camera yet. So we order Burger King, we eat dinner, we watch King of the Hill, and we fall asleep in Will's room. Because if you're aware, like, Will and I have separate bedrooms, had separate bedrooms in the apartment so that we could each have our own space. And also because Will doesn't like blankets, I need lots of blankets, I snore, Will gets up and down a lot. Like, we just, you know, separate bedrooms just worked for us. So we would, like, sleep together. But I had my space and Will had their space. So we fall asleep in Will's room, and we're watching King of the Hill. And then we close the laptop and, like, put it under the bed, and we're like, okay, we're done, good night. And then, for some reason, we wake up in the middle of the night and King of the Hill is still playing. Like, it's still going on the laptop underneath the bed. And I remember looking at them and being like, turn it off. Like, we need to get some sleep. Like, just turn it off. So we, you know, turn it off, go back to bed. And I guess it was around 1:30 that I got up and moved to the couch. I was going to go to my bedroom to sleep, but something told me just like, no, just sleep on the couch tonight. Because whenever Will would deal with, you know, have a flare-up, I would sleep on the couch. And at this point, I had been sleeping on the couch probably for around a month prior, which was how long the flare-up had lasted, but that was pretty standard. My alarm goes off at 10:30. I get up, and I'm not wearing pants. This is so stupid, but I'm not wearing pants. So I go and I look out the peephole at our door, because usually Will had ordered breakfast and it would be waiting there by the time I got up. So my job was to, like, whenever you wake up, go get breakfast and then come in the bedroom and we'll, like, start our morning. So I go look and there's no breakfast, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. So I go to the bedroom and I knock on the door and I'm like, hey, get up. And I open the door and Will is kneeling on the floor leaned up against the bed like this. And that's not an uncommon thing for Will to do whenever they were having a flare-up or had just gotten out of the hospital, because the fluid retention fills their lungs and it makes it hard for them to breathe. So laying down, it always felt like they were drowning. So I'm like, oh, you're asleep. Wake up. And I am like, hey, Will, get up. Because Will's a pretty light sleeper. And I was like, oh, wow, you're like asleep. So I go and I'm like, hey, wake up. And I tap their shoulder and they don't move. I'm like, Will, get up. So I shake their shoulder and then their head just flops back. And I just kind of lose it. And I'm trying to keep my calm, but you can't be calm in this situation. I can't be calm in this situation. So I'm like, Will, get up. And I start like kind of shaking them a little bit. I'm like, hey, like, get up. This isn't funny. And I like smack their cheek and I'm like, hey, get up. And I'm feeling for like a breath or a pulse or something. And I realize that there's not anything. So I call 911 and give them my address and tell them, you know, my fiance is dead. They're not breathing. They're like, is there a pulse? Or no, there's nothing like that. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna lay them flat on the floor, and then you're gonna put your hands over their heart and start doing chest compressions, and you're gonna count to 4. And I need you to just keep counting to 4. The police are on their way, the first responders, the paramedics, so just count to 4. And I'm doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And nothing happens. And I just keep doing it over and over, and nothing happens. And I just start crying, and I can't breathe, because nothing's happening. And the 911 responder says, I need you to keep counting. You can't stop. I need you to keep counting. And I never stopped. I just couldn't talk. I couldn't breathe. I'm just sobbing. And I'm just counting over and over again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. So she's like, is there anything happening? I say no. And she says, okay, the paramedics are on their way. Is there anyone else there? And I say no. And she says, okay, I need you to get up. I need you to go unlock the door. And I need you to come back. So I did. I come back and I'm still just trying. I'm just trying so hard. And nothing happens. So the paramedics get there. And the way that Will's room was set up, it was kind of oddly shaped. So we had the bed over here. Here's the bed. Here's the door. But then, like, here's a dresser and the bathroom. So it's not just like a square room. The paramedics come in and they drop all their stuff. And they hook Will up to, like, a heart thing and a breathing tube down their throat. And I don't even know what all it was. There was just, I remember there being equipment. And I'm just sitting on the bed, crying and screaming into my hands. And they're just trying and trying and trying and nothing's working. And I just keep thinking, there are 8 strangers in my house right now. Because the police are here now at this point. There were like 5 paramedics and 3 officers. Like, there are 8 strangers in my house right now. Lila's dead, and I'm not wearing pants. I just kept thinking, like, I'm sitting here on the bed, because I can't, in order to leave the room, I have to go over Will and over the paramedics. So I just, when they get there, I just, like, move back to the bed. And I'm just, like, thinking, I don't have any pants on. And all these strangers can see my dick. And Will is dead. and I couldn't do anything about it. So, like I said, my alarm went off at 10:30, and the paramedics kept trying until 11:09, and I will never forget the paramedic looking up at me and looking me in the eyes and saying, time of death, 11:09. And it's in there. And the paramedics leave, and the cops want to talk to me, which I guess is like, that's standard, right? So I go to the living room, the cops are like, is it okay if we ask you a couple questions? I'm like, can I put on pants first? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. And my sweatpants are in the living room because I took them off before I fell asleep. So I have to walk through the living room where all the cops are. I have to step over Will and go put on pants and sit on the couch while these officers are asking me questions. And there was one officer who was nice, I guess. Like, he was not going as hard as the other ones, but basically they were like, what's your relation? It was like, my fiance. Well, how long have you lived here? Almost 4 years. You know, any health conditions? And at this point, I had told the paramedics about the heart condition. I had told the 911 person, I think, about the heart condition. And I'm like, why do I have to keep repeating myself? Why is everyone asking me the same fucking question? Like, you put it in a file. Why are you asking me? But I don't say that. I'm just very calm. As calm as you can be. Like, trying to respond to these officers calmly. And they're like, oh, well, where's the ID? And I was like, I don't know, probably in like a pants pocket somewhere. They go find the ID. They're like, okay, well, is it a New York ID or a Florida ID? And I was like, I don't know. Like, because I had told them Will was originally from New York. And I was like, I don't know. Like, you have it in your hand. Have you ever asked your fiance to see their ID? Have you ever asked your partner to see what state their ID was issued from? No. And the guy goes, the officer who was a little bit more respectful of the situation goes, yeah, I guess that's kind of a stupid question, right? And I was like, yeah. So the officers, they keep asking me questions, and then they go into my room, and they're like, who else lives here? And I say, that's my room. And they thought it was weird because we were engaged, but we had separate bedrooms. I'm like, listen, Will had a heart condition. Whenever COVID happened, I work with the public. I needed a separate space. Like, that's what happened. We had to keep social distance in our own house to make sure that I did not give Will COVID. And I don't even know how long they were there. It felt like a while, but it probably wasn't. They asked me if I want a chaplain, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. And they're like, oh, it's like a minister to come who will sit here and, like, pray with you. And I was like, I don't want a fucking minister. Like, no. So they leave, and then I realize that I am there alone with Will's dead body. And I don't know how long I was alone. During all of this, they asked about family. I had never spoken to Will's mother or sibling on the phone, ever. I didn't have their number. So I have to call Will's best friend, who lives in New York, who then lets the family know, and then the family calls me. And the first conversation that I have with Will's brother is, hi, I'm Bear. What funeral home do you want to send Will to? The essence of the conversation. So the officers give me the name of a funeral home, and I'm like, okay, fine, let's just do that one. Like, I don't know. Like, why are you asking me this question right now? So they go, the officers leave, and I'm there by myself, with Will's dead body laying on the floor, for what feels like hours. The funeral home people call me, and they're like, hey, we're sending someone over, is there an officer with you? And I say, no, they all left. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, they all left. A police officer is supposed to stay there because the funeral home cannot pick up the body unless there's an officer present. So I don't know if the cops just forgot or if the chaplain counts as an officer or what. But basically, I'm there alone with Will. So they left everything hooked up. They left the breathing tube down their throat. They left the patches for the EKG thing still attached. And I'm like, what do you do right now? Because I am in shock. I was in shock for more than a week, I think. So I call a friend who, Will and I are both friends with them, and they lived close by. So I called them. They come over, and they sit with me until the funeral home people get there. And they asked me, the funeral home, like the pickup guy, I don't know what they're called. He says, do you want to say goodbye? And I say, did you take out the breathing tube? And he said, no. And I said, I can't see them like that again. So I guess the funeral home secretary, great funeral home, they were fantastic the whole time. It feels weird to call a funeral home great, but the funeral home people were nothing but understanding and kind and helpful, and they were just amazing. So they go take them away, take Will to the funeral home, and then it was just like, okay, that's your day. And all of this felt like hours, but from the time I woke up in the morning to the time that the paramedics pronounced Will gone was less than 40 minutes, and it took a long time to register that. It felt like hours. So I don't know how long I was left alone with Will. It felt like hours. I don't know how long it took for anyone to get there, but the whole thing just felt like hours. Like, before noon, I felt like I had been awake for a week. I call my mom, and I call my dad, and I asked the friend who had worked with Will to just, like, let people know, because I don't know how to handle that part. I don't know how to handle, like, the backside of it. So I've been, like, talking to the brother, I'm talking to the friend, I'm talking to my family, and I call work, and I let them know, and say, I'm not going to be coming in tomorrow. I'm not going to be coming in for a couple of days, at least. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. Because A, I can't afford to live in Orlando by myself. I can't afford the rent on this apartment by myself. I can't go anywhere, because everywhere that I would go has a memory with Will attached. I can't stand being here, because every time I closed my eyes, I just saw them laying on the floor. So everyone leaves, the friends go get me food, and I go to bed that night, and I count, sometimes help myself fall asleep, and I realize that I am counting to chest compressions. I'm just counting over in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I did that for like the first month. If I was walking, I would count my steps like 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would have to make myself stop. All of my nightmares, because you know I have a sleep disorder that gives me nightmares every night, were about Will. And just seeing them laying there on the floor, and just going through that over and over. And, the next little bit is a little bit hazy, because I don't remember a lot of it. But I do know that we finalized the plan, like, okay, after the service, I will move back to Alabama. I'll move back in with my dad, which is where I'm at right now. Move back in, take some time, because I can't be in Orlando and take that time. Whenever everything in Florida reminds me of Will, I can't do that and work and heal and do all of this at the same time. So, back in Alabama. I've been in Alabama for about a month now. Today that I'm filming this is actually my 1 month of being back here. So I guess now we can just skip to the issues that I had that didn't necessarily come from grief, but just came up during everything. So I'm planning a move, right? I'm packing up all my stuff. I have to go through Will's things. Will had lived in that apartment for longer than we've been together. Well, I've probably been in that apartment for 10 years. So I have 10 years worth of stuff that I have to go through. I open the drawer, Will's sock drawer, and the first thing I find is a card that I got them, I think either 2020 or 2021. And it says, "Someday you will find this card in a drawer, and we will still be in love." And that's the first thing of theirs that I found when I started going through shit. And I don't know where the card is anymore. I thought I packed it away. I haven't been able to find it. It might be like shoved in a book somewhere, which God knows how long that's going to take to find. But I like to think that maybe Will grabbed it on their way out, you know? So in talking with the funeral home and talking with the family, the issue of money comes up. And if you follow me on Twitter and Instagram, you saw that a friend of Will's started a GoFundMe. I offered to pay for half the service. And the family's like, okay, well, that's great. Even though it felt kind of weird to me that there were 3 people involved. It was me, Will's mom, and Will's brother. So I was like, I don't feel like me paying half of it is, like, fair. But at the same time, I'm not worried about that right now. I just want to get this done. Because we can't bury Will until we pay for everything. I was told from the brother that we could not even pick a date for the funeral until everything was paid. They could not start the funeral stuff until everything was paid. That was not true. I picked out the clothes, got them dry cleaned, took them to the funeral home. I did everything. Because on top of me planning a move and still trying to go to work when I can, which I put in my 2-week notice and I worked maybe 5 shifts out of that 2 weeks. I'm also planning a funeral for the person that I had been engaged to, that I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with. So, I'm planning the funeral, I'm contacting everyone, and somehow at some point, like, word got out before I had made a post about it, before I notified everyone. I don't know who said what to someone, but someone posted something in a Facebook group, and then word got out, and everyone was just like, you know, messaging me and adding me and posting and all this stuff. So it blew up, basically. At the time of me looking on Will's phone, there were over 500 condolence posts tagged on their account. And Will had it set to where they had to approve anything that they got tagged in. So I sat there and approved hundreds of posts before someone brought up, like, why don't you just change the settings? And I was like, oh, fuck, yeah, I can do that, and it'll make it easier. So the phone will quit fucking going off, because it was going off literally every, like, 5 seconds. It would ring, or there would be a text message, or a Snapchat, or something, from people to be like, tell me it isn't true. I heard something scary about you. Tell me that this is a lie. Tell me this is fake. And I'm just sitting there and replying to all of them, and I'm like, this is not fake. This is real. This is not, like, just fucking stop it, because someone has to answer that message, and that someone is me. So, I'm planning the funeral, and like I said, I'm the only one of the 3 of us in Florida, so I'm doing everything. I am picking out flowers, and organizing the speakers, and finding a minister, and writing the obituary. I'm doing everything. I was specifically asked to find a minister. I was specifically asked to write the obituary. I was specifically asked to discuss flowers with the funeral home. And organize speakers. And a video, like a tribute video, and all of it. And I had offered to just, like, let me do whatever I can that I need to do here that you guys can't do from where you're at. So, the minister that I picked out wasn't good enough. Find a different one. I'd be like, well, no, I'm not gonna do that. Well, we need to approve everything in the video. Well, you should have sent your photos that you wanted in the video included more than 24 hours before the day of the service. Oh, well, we need to get a list of all the speakers. Okay, well, here's that. Oh, well, what flowers did you pick out for the funeral home? Well, the funeral home told me that because Will was being cremated, that they do white carnations, and that way they can reuse them for other services. Well, don't you think that we should just, like, buy flowers and stuff? I'm like, no. Like, no, I don't. Because Will's dead, and flowers aren't gonna fucking do anything. So, I find the singer. We talk about music. We're gonna do one of Will's favorite songs, Life on Mars, David Bowie. Well, that's not Christ-like enough. This is not a service for Will. This is a service for God. That is what I was told. This is not a service for Will. This is a service for God. Now, it's not the time for nationalist music. If you want to have a party afterwards and do that, you can do that. But this is going to be a Christian service. Will was a Christian. Will had a very strong relationship with religion and with God. We got a hired minister who had never met Will, who compared them to the prodigal son returning home and finding Christ again. The minister mentioned his own porn addiction 7 times. The minister just kept going on and saying all of these things. And I'm getting ahead of myself. Backtrack to the apartment situation. We clear it that I'm allowed to stay in the apartment until the rent is up, like, because we paid at the start of the month. So I'm clear to stay until the end of the month. And then if I need to stay any extra days, then I can do that. So May 31st, whenever the rent is done, right? Anything else I have to pay. We had originally agreed for the service to be May 27th. Keep in mind, Will died May 13th. Well, that's not going to work because we can't get the money fast enough. We need to push it back to the 4th of June. None of my biological family could make it to the service on the 4th of June. Plus, that's an extra however many days that I'm going to have to pay rent. And I'm moving on the 5th. So, mess. I'm like, okay, whatever. I think that we should do it in May because Will has been dead for, at that point, almost a month. You know, if we do it on the 4th, then that'll have been almost a month. And I'm at work, and the funeral home calls me, and they tell me that the family, without telling me that this was the final decision, had moved the date to June 4th. So I have to re-notify everyone after telling everyone that it was going to be the 27th, because that is what we had agreed upon. Re-notify everyone, let them know that the date has changed. People from different countries were messaging me wanting to fly in. I, at one point, went to the bathroom to get away from everyone who had come to my apartment to help clean or bring food or just come to visit or sit with me or whatever. I just went to the bathroom. I was like, I need 5 minutes. So I open up Pokemon Go, I'm sitting on the toilet, I'm catching a fucking Caterpie or whatever. And I get a message from someone saying, hey, I'm Will's friend from Germany, and I need to know about the service ASAP so I can book my ticket. And these are hundreds of people that I have never met who knew Will and were very close to Will. But I have never met them because they're in different countries. They're in different states. They knew Will whenever they were in high school or college or from this organization or that party or whatever, or this job. I don't know any of these people. So we get the date of the service set. The brother and his girlfriend fly down. And it's like, okay, cool. We're going to stay with you for a night until we can get our hotel. And we'll help you clean, we'll help you do this, we'll help you do that. Nothing. They came and they stayed for maybe like 6 hours before they went to their hotel. Never came back to the apartment to help me clean. Never came back to the apartment to help me pack up Will's things or go through Will's things. Ever. Did not see them again until we went to go pay for everything. So I paid my half. The brother paid his half. I say, oh, we need to add in the online streaming service for everyone who can't come in because of COVID. Like, I have made that very adamant. We need to do a streaming option because that's something that the funeral home offers. Like, they hire an outside company to come in and do the streaming. So I tell them that doesn't happen. People from different states are calling the funeral home saying, where's the live stream? That didn't happen. This is the first. So my last day at work was the first. So I literally, when I wake up that morning, am showing up to the funeral home in my work uniform and have to leave from paying the funeral home people this money to go straight to work for my last shift. Everyone at work, for the most part, was amazing. They were very understanding. One girl offered to set up a meal train for me so people could bring me food. I had people just bringing stuff over, cards, calling me, coming to just sit with me for a little bit. Just my coworkers were amazing throughout all of this. And on my last shift, we do this thing at the end of the night where whenever you close, you get to shop. And I'm doing my shopping, and I'm just like, this is the last time that I'm gonna see these people for I don't know how long. And these people have become like a second family to me in the 4 years that I've lived here, and I've worked with all of them, and I trained most of them, and like we talk outside of work, and you know, we've all been there for each other's bad days, and going through COVID and a pandemic, working with the public, it's made me grow really attached to them. You know, at the end of the night, it's kind of like, oh, Bear's leaving, and we're all really sad about it. Do you have anything you want to say? And they say, you know, I did have a speech prepared, but I couldn't even do it. And I said, you know, when I started working here 4 years ago, I didn't know anyone, and I was terrified. And I was scared that I was too whatever to work here and fit in. And all of you have been there for me throughout something. And I've been there for all of you throughout something. So just please, anyone who gets hired after me, just make them feel the way that you made me feel and the way that I hope I made all of you feel. So my work husband gives me a ride home that night. He was supposed to be the best man in mine and Will's wedding. Gives me a ride home. And that's my last shift. So the next day, I think it was the second that Will's best friend flies in from New York. I believe it was the second. On the third is this ceremony sort of situation happening at the theme park. I understand that we don't talk about Harry Potter on this channel. We don't do that. But Will worked at Universal and at several points worked at different Potter attractions throughout the park. So they want to do a wand ceremony at the castle, where it's just everyone coming together for a moment, honoring Will. I told the brother and the girlfriend to get there at a certain time. I think I said, like, it's going to be from noon to 1, or 1 to 2, or something like that. They don't let me know that they're pulling into Universal until 5 minutes until the end of that period. So if it was 1 to 2, they pulled up at 1:55. If it was 12 to 1, they pulled up at 12:55. It takes like 20 minutes to get into the park. And some of these people who were at the ceremony had to go clock in. And they're like, yeah, we know we're running late. Just like let us, you know, tell everyone to wait like 10 minutes. Well, I can't because they have to go work. So they end up getting there and they do another ceremony at a different part of the park, and I end up giving the brother and the girlfriend 2 of the wands that we had. And I say, okay, these were gifts to me from Will, so you can use them for your park day and you can give them back to me at the service. They're like, okay, cool. Spend the whole day at the park. Also had said that they needed multiple comp tickets for different people who were going to come, different family members. Those people did not come. I don't know what happened, but they were in town for 3 more days, and they asked for 6 comp tickets. I don't know. The math. You know, the math. So, day of the funeral comes up. The family viewing is from noon to 1, and the public viewing is from 1 to 2, and the service is from 2 to 4. So I get there at noon. Like, I think I got there at like 11:55, but I get there on time, and I go in and I'm like, hey, I'm here for the family viewing of Will. They're like, okay. I go in there and I sit in there for an hour by myself because the family does not come to the family viewing. The family does not show up until 5 minutes before the public viewing starts. And also keep in mind, they were only staying 15 minutes away. My best friend drove an hour to get to the funeral and still got there before the family. They brought in like this picture and more flowers and stuff, and it was just all like, okay, let's get this done right before everyone shows up. Even though at that point, multiple people had already showed up for the public viewing. During the service, as I said earlier, we had wanted to do David Bowie, and the mother shot that down in favor for gospel music and insisted that Will's favorite song was Amazing Grace, even though that was not true. The program, on one side, it has the obituary, and on the other side, it has everything listed, like the order of the speakers and everything. I go to read the obituary, and I realize that the obituary that I was asked to write has been completely tossed out, and there is no mention of me in the obituary. In the one that I had sent, I specifically listed the family members that Will left behind, because, you know, that's how they phrase it, as well as me. That was taken out. I was left out of the obituary for my fiance's funeral that I planned, that got all changed the day before the fucking service. Everything that I had planned, other than the people who were speaking and the outfit that Will was wearing in the casket, got changed. You asked me to spend 3 weeks planning a funeral, and you don't even put my name in the fucking obituary. And at that point, I look over at my best friend, because on one side of the room, it's pretty much just me in the front seat, and my coworkers are all behind me, pretty much leading all the way up to the back. On the other side of the chapel, you have all of Will's friends and Will's coworkers, and then the two family members that showed up, the brother and the girlfriend. The mom did not come. I also want to say that it was mandatory mask requirements of the service. We made everyone wear a mask. That was something that we all agreed on. And guess who the two people who were there who were not wearing masks? Minor nitpick. Still really pissed me off. Everyone, as the minister is talking, is looking at their obituary, and they're realizing that my name got left off. I'm not mentioned in the obituary. I'm listed on the other side under speakers in little tiny print with the word fiancé printed beside my name. Which is fine, right? But why did you take my name out of the obituary? Is the question that I was left with. Like, why out of everything that you have done to me throughout this whole thing, that's one more slap in the face that you're not going to tell me about, that I have to find out while we are sitting here listening to a minister talk and Will is dead in a casket. You're going to wait until then for me to find out that my name's not included in the goddamn obituary. So we do the service, and the singer starts singing beautiful songs, gospel music. You know, not what we had planned, and I was disappointed by that, but at least we have a singer who is still singing. She's not, you know what I mean? There's not any trouble with the fact that she's singing. It's just the songs that we had picked are getting shot down. The brother comes over to me as she's singing gospel music, kneels down, and says, "That better not be that song that I told you not to have them sing." My mom said no. And I was like, I just look up at him and I'm like, what? He says, "This better not be that song that I told you not to have them sing." And I'm like, does this sound like fucking David Bowie to you? She's singing about like the lambs and the field and the shepherd and shit. This is not fucking David Bowie. "Oh, well, this isn't Amazing Grace." I said, did you even look at the fucking program? Like, it's listed that Amazing Grace is going to be the last song. I said, did you look at your program? It's listed there. "Well, this isn't what we talked about." I said, if you want to talk to someone about it, call your fucking mom, because she's the one who worked out all of this with the singer. So he goes back and he sits in his chair, doesn't speak to me again throughout the whole funeral or afterwards whenever everyone is standing around talking. And I want to be clear in saying that there's no fault for the people who spoke or the funeral home or anything. None of that fault falls on any of us. I planned a service for Will, what Will would have wanted. That was all taken away in favor of looking godly and Christ-like. And out of everything that happened, that was the biggest slap in the face. So we're all standing outside afterwards talking, right? Where everyone's like, oh, sorry, here's hugs, here's condolences. You know, everyone's just like talking outside after the funeral. Brother doesn't speak to me. I look up to the girlfriend and I say, hey, how much extra do I have to pay? Because the brother, the day before the service, had told me, you know, the GoFundMe was like a regular issue conversation bringing up. I never asked about the life insurance policy because I don't care about money, right? My fiance is dead. I don't give a fuck about money right now. I will pay what I need to pay. I will find a way to pay it. So the brother had told me, oh, well, I don't know what you're planning on doing with the GoFundMe money, but, you know, we still have to pay for the sign-in book, and we have to pay for the flowers, and we have to pay for the minister, and we have to pay for all this. I said, no. You and your mother agreed to pay for the minister because you said the one that I found was not appropriate. So you guys said that you would pay for that. I also told you that we were going to go with the flowers the funeral home chose. So if you guys want any additional flowers, you can pay for that. Anything else I need to pay for? Well, we need to pay for the sign-in book, we need to pay for the cards, we need to pay for X, Y, and Z, right? Like all this stuff laid out. And also said, if you want to take some of the money to move, that's fine, just tell me that. I'm like, it's not that I'm trying to take money here. Keep in mind, this is less than 24 hours before the service is happening. I'm not trying to take money. I don't give a shit about money right now. Okay? I don't care. Keeps going on. Well, if you look at, like, how much you took out for your half of the funeral, that's not even half of what was raised in the GoFundMe. So, like, where's the rest of that? And I say, okay, if you want to make this about money, talk to me about that life insurance policy. Crickets. Well, we don't really know. No, you do. I know how much the life insurance policy is through. I'm not listed as a beneficiary, but I know how much money Will's life insurance policy was. So, if you're worried about, if you want to make this conversation about money, if that's what you want to do right now, then let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about the money. Well, we don't really know anything. Yes, you do. So if you want to ask about money, when am I getting my half of the money? Are you splitting that? Like, what's the deal with that? Nothing. I'm like, okay. So after the funeral, you know, I'm sitting out there and I'm talking to everyone and something just tells me to go back inside. I don't know what it is. Something just go back inside. So I go back inside and I talk to the person sitting at the desk and I'm like, hey, I had, you know, we just had the funeral for my fiance. And she says, yeah. I say, is it okay if I do you have a minute for me to talk to you? And she says, yeah, what's up? And I was like, when do you stop being mad at people? So she pulls me back there, like we sit down and we talk in her office. And at this point, people don't know where I am. Like, no one knows where I've gone. So people start looking for me. And eventually, a group of Will's friends and my friends and coworkers, like, they come in and they see me in the office and we're just talking about everything. And the funeral home confirms that, yes, they did lie. There was no additional cost. Everything that we paid for was paid for when I paid for my half of the service. Specifically, the sign-in book. The sign-in book is a gift given to the family for the funeral, from the funeral home directly. They have never charged for sign-in books at that funeral home. Everything that I was told about money was a lie. So, the worst month of my life, losing the person who was the most important person in the world to me, got deduced down to two things by the family: religion and money. And I am trying very hard still to not be angry about that. I'm trying hard to not be angry about that. So now that I'm back in Alabama, I've been here a month, I can feel people online starting to get tired of me talking about it. Like, I'll reach out to people and be like, hey, can I talk? And they're like, I don't have the space for that right now. Have you thought about going to therapy? Have you thought about a grief counselor, support group, etc.? Everything that can be recommended to me has been recommended to me, I promise you. Well, One thing I didn't realize that may be helpful information for you if you're going through the same thing, most therapists and counselors want you to wait an extended period of time after your loss to make sure that you are not just acting on what people are telling you to by seeking help. They want to make sure that you actually are committed to doing therapy. Most people that I read online who have gone through similar situations to mine had to wait a year before they were able to actually sit down and talk to someone about their mental health after dealing with grief and the loss of a loved one. Yeah, I don't know. I intend to get help at some point when that's something that I can do. I just don't know right now. I just feel really lost and scared and confused and sad, and you know, I keep looking at Will's birthday was July 3rd, and then the 4th of July is immediately the next day, which is a month anniversary of the funeral. And then today that I'm filming this, the 5th, it's a month anniversary of my move. And just knowing that we have Christmases and birthdays and holidays and other anniversaries and stuff, and knowing that this is a year of firsts, like the next 11 months are going to be a year of firsts without Will. And I don't know how to be okay with that. I don't know how to be okay with the fact that my forever ended after 4 years. I don't know what I'm supposed to do from here on out. So that's where I've been the past 2 months, and that's what's happened. I don't know how much of this is actually going to make it in the final cut of this video. I have to edit this shit. So I don't know when I will be back to making videos regularly. But I do know that Will was the reason that I started BookTube. Will was the reason that I did pretty much everything that I do. And Will loved the community that I built on here. Will loved all of you. And that was another thing too, was having to tell everyone who watches the videos, who would regularly comment, when are we getting another video with Will? When are we getting another video with Will? And you're not. And I catch myself still waking up and being like, rolling over and being like, you're not there anymore. You know, I go through some of this stuff that I brought of Will's. Like, I was going through a book of theirs and I found a card that I didn't know that they kept, or I found this piece of paper, or I found like this written in a notebook. And it's just, it's non-stop. And I don't know what to do with that. Yeah. Our dating anniversary is October 1st. The day that I proposed was September 27th. My birthday was the 3rd, and we were going to be married in October of this year. And I don't know what to do. But despite all of the negative thoughts that I'm having, because I will be honest, I have thought about suicide. I have almost regressed into my eating disorder. I have thought about self-harm. I have thought about all of it. And it feels like the rest of the world is moving on. And everyone else is moving on with their lives. And I'm stuck. I am stuck there. on May 13th, sitting on the bed without any pants, while the paramedic looks up at me and he says, time of death 11:09. I just don't know what to do anymore. But the one thing that has kept me going is that I was stuck in Alabama before. I felt stuck. I thought I was never gonna move out. I was never gonna meet anyone. I felt ugly and stupid and worthless and just the most unimportant person on the planet. And then I met Will. And it's because of Will that I got out. And I felt smart and funny and beautiful and important. And I promised them the last night that I was in Florida. I was walking around the apartment complex at like 2 in the morning, just saying goodbye to everything, all of our spots, you know. There was this, we had a pond, and there was this tree, and I would always stop and say just hello to the tree and just take a minute and pause. And I went and said goodbye to the tree. And on my walk back to the apartment, I said I wouldn't let myself get stuck again. And that I was gonna keep going. I was gonna keep going for Will. And I have to. So I'm gonna end it there because I can't talk through all the congestion. But that's where I've been. That's what happened. I just want them back. And I know it's selfish, but I just want them back so bad. So, I hope you have a wonderful, whatever it is, wherever you are. And I will see you when I see you. Because this is really fucking hard. Okay.